the list for your client list. I was calling it the client cheat sheet for sleep.
It's a lot.
A lot of good stuff in there. So I'm excited to share with everyone your findings. And some of those I've tried, and some I hadn't been as tuned into.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious now to go back and see if they work for me, especially and at the end, if we have time to talk about the menopausal insomnia
Yeah.
that I've experienced. And I may just have another session just on that.
Yeah,
So,
that's a whole nother
so welcome.
animal. So hi. Hello. So all right. Should I start?
Yeah, so let me ask you this. What made you first start to or see the importance of creating this sort of document for your clients?
Oh man, because sleep is such a big thing that I've seen in myself and other people. So everything in my guidebook is made because someone needs it. There's at least one person or multiple people that really need this, and I know it's going to help. And really the main treatment that doctors give for sleep is some type of benzodiazepine and cognitive behavioral therapy, some type of CBTI, which talking is great. It's part of it. We got to talk and vent and maybe even connect with our paid therapist, which is weird. It's nice to connect with people unpaid and paid, right? And then benzos have the side effects, and there's so many more things to do. It's quite irresponsible to just prescribe those two things. And there's so many things that I do that are magical, like just eating rice before bed. That's one of the things. Or
I saw that.
it's such a funny, weird one. And I have a lot of people doing that now, and it works.
Wow.
So I had to make this list because it's tragic what some of the recommendations I've heard are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very extensive list. I love it. And then for after we go through this, to really encourage everyone to really test it out for themselves and see what works for them. It's a little trial and error. And what I found, I always like to try things on myself before I recommend them anyway. So giving it a certain amount of time to allow my body to acclimate to that new thing that I'm including in my regimen. And really, I think in your document too, you called it, you designated a time. Your like bedtime regimen, or
Oh yeah, there's like rest time. I compartmentalize the day. I've been doing that for 2 years now, where it's like,
Okay.
all right, we have time where we're active and we're interacting with people or creating, whether it's stand-up comedy or a movie or clients or a puzzle, whatever. And then there's time to rest and not interact. And I separate the time with a
I love
line.
that.
It helps so much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially during this pandemic time too, if you're people that are paying attention to the news, a lot of it's very negative. So I think it's very important to designate certain amount of times and be very strict because you can burn
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it.
All right, cool. All right. So one thing is that if you have depression, insomnia might be your number one cause. It might be the total cause. Who knows? So right now, this talk is a piecemeal. We're gonna piecemeal together. I'm gonna throw out a lot of different suggestions for fixing insomnia, fixing your sleep, getting to sleep possibly earlier, or going into sleep faster. Even if you got home at 12 or 1 or 2, it's not early, but you want to get to sleep. Here are some ways to go, woo, sleep, and maybe stay asleep longer. It's very important. So this is a crash course. A lot of the things are not good for you. Some will be good. And these are some suggestions. And everyone's going to need different ones. And some of you won't need any of them. All right. All right. Here we're going to go. You're going to go from topic to topic. 1, melatonin. Was just going over this. I was just asked this last week, or someone suggested melatonin. So a lot of people, they do well with melatonin. They suggest melatonin. I do not. A lot of people do not. Yeah, you don't either. So melatonin is not a good hypnotic, aka a sleeping pill, to get you to sleep. It depends on the time of day and light. It's affected by light, as you can see The lighting here, I have all candlelight. As soon as the sun goes down, I put up salt lamps and LED lamps. And then this light is a little brighter than I usually like, but it's okay. It's acceptable. And that helps melatonin. It still stifles melatonin production, but supposedly around 9 o'clock, our brains start releasing melatonin. Now, taking the pill does not work for me. I wake up groggy. It's often part of a stack of sleep supplements, which may work. And if you wake up groggy, a quick tip, you look into the sunlight and it helps to dissolve, just colloquially speaking, the melatonin and helps alert with wakefulness, because melatonin's about wakefulness and circadian rhythms and light and dark. It's not really a knock you out type of thing. Benzodiazepines are. So if melatonin doesn't work for you, that it's very common. I don't like it. All right, I'm going to jump to one that's not on the list, and we can print some of the pages. Cleansing people energy. This is one that's kind of on my mind right now. And I'm always about being careful with energy, but I've been extra strict this last week, and I notice it's really helping, because insomnia is not a time of day thing. Your whole entire day, your whole life, everything can trigger and affect your sleep and your wakefulness. So if something's stressing you out, perhaps you're going to have a hard time falling asleep, and people can drain us or they can boost us. I don't think there's anything in the middle, because we can have people that we think are doing nothing, but think about this. If they're hanging around, they're taking up space that someone really awesome and uplifting could take, so they're actually holding you back. And
That's a great point.
I have someone, I'll give you an example because you need an example. I have someone I've been friends with for several years. We work out once a week or so, but my neck starts hurting whenever I'm around him, because I know that he doesn't like comedy, and I'm very quirky and I always tell jokes and I always like to say funny things, and I can just tell he's like, ugh, whenever I tell a joke. I mean, I'm hosting a comedy show on Saturday, one of the biggest comedy clubs in New York. This is my life, and I'm around someone who clearly is like, ew. So it's not really a good connection. So I kind of thought on that. I'm like, I don't think I should really spend even 1 or 2 hours a week with this person. And I kind of feel lighter. So that's interesting.
Well, that's a big, it just shows me how much you prioritize your energy, and the subject we're talking about is sleep.
Right.
So we'd rather not have that opportunity based on your energy. That's huge. That's a really good example.
It just drains energy, simply put, to be around certain people where you have to really censor yourself or watch yourself, and you might even feel tight in the neck, the throat chakra, if you feel like you shouldn't say certain things. So that'll drain you and make you tired maybe during the day. And then perhaps what I've noticed, once that person leaves or you leave that person, you might feel free and you get a burst of wakefulness, maybe at the wrong time. So monitor your people. Now we'll jump to the real list. That was just a little side note I got to get out of the way.
I love it though. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. I know you'd like that one. So avoiding naps longer than 30 minutes. Sometimes naps work. A lot of times you get a nap and you can't sleep at night. So if you can't sleep at night, perhaps just stop sleeping during the day. Finishing cardio and high energy workouts at least 3 hours before bed. Now, for a lot of men, I've noticed they can work out right before bed and then they can go right to sleep. A lot of women seem to not be able to do that. So maybe it's 5 hours before bed, maybe it's 3 hours before bed. A lot of people nowadays are taking pre-workouts. Those are very normalized. They're kind of like I call them legal forms of cocaine. That's obviously hyperbole. But that's a normal thing. People will take these Red Bulls or some type of uppers at 5 p.m. and hello, it's going to affect your sleep, and it's going to affect your wakefulness, and you're going to get a crappier sleep and have a harder time waking up. Another one is cacao. Cacao, even at 10, 11, 12 in the morning, it's touted as a health food. To me, messes up my sleep. If I take it 2 days in a row, I am really low. I'm talking depressed, like maybe for 2 or 3 or 4 days. I'll even get sick. I'm so run down. So you got to watch
Really?
cacao. I'm very sensitive to that upper for me. And I know a lot of people like that
Because
too.
it's a caffeine.
It's not a caffeine though.
No.
It has a theobromine and anandamide and probably other stimulants. I don't think it has caffeine. Chocolate does. Some does.
Okay.
But cacao is just like, whoo. I get so up, my eyes dilate. even my vision changes and I get hot, and it's great to perform because you need that aggression, but the energy comes from somewhere.
That's an excellent tip. I'm going to have to pay attention to that one.
Yes. So if you're having even a teaspoon of cacao and you feel like you're getting agitated or angry or outbursts or annoyed, that's a big one. I went to a psychiatrist for sleep and energy years ago. I learned like 3 things from him. It really wasn't helpful. But one of the things he said, he gets in a fight with his wife every time he has raw chocolate, and he'd stop doing it. And I was like, me too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, cacao can really mess up your sleep.
Okay.
Another one, hit the steam room, a hot shower or a hot bath,
Yes.
maybe within 1, 2, or 3 hours before bed. You might even have a hard time if you're really kind of tired getting out of the bed. I almost couldn't stand up one time. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments. And the bath, I love baths anyway. So the bath is a go-to for me, and especially like adding the Epsom salt and the essential oils. I know you mentioned that further down on your document, but those things that's definitely a go-to. But if I don't have time or even sometimes the energy to actually take the bath,
right. Or
then,
the time.
yeah.
It could be a time, and then you're spending time in the bath when you should be just getting to sleep. So if you need to get to sleep, maybe don't spend 2 hours in a bath. And time management, everybody. The bath, by the way, too, I made the mistake of putting tea tree oil, I believe, in a bath. There was a whole bunch of different oils. One of them burned through my skin. So be very careful putting tea tree oil in your bath. It might give you ulcers on your body. That's another one a lot of people don't know. Maybe just putting in a diffuser. All right. So here's a weird one. A lot of people say not to eat before bed. Ideally, no, don't. You want to get your organs to rest. However, pros and cons. If I don't need to fall asleep and I'm tired, I will try not to eat before bed. I'll have very, very little. But that doesn't really work for me. And I seem to be able to be very defined and low body fat even when eating before bed. So that's a weird one that's very controversial. The costs for me seem to be lower than the benefits. I will eat some type of carb heavy, lower vibration, lower conductive food. So foods that conduct water are raw foods, raw fruits and vegetables. The conductivity is high, just like a pool. You stand by a pool, it connects energy. If you're having raw food before bed, a lot of people will get an energy boost. So raw fruit and vegetables might not be the best to have before bed. It might work for you. For me, it doesn't. So
it made me think of when you were saying complex carbs, how we say carbs are comfort food. And so comfort, bed, snuggly. So I kind of associate that. That's how I'll remember that too.
Yeah. Rice is not just for me. It's in studies. I tell almost every client, everybody this. It's proven to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer. Rice is grounding. So white rice, brown rice.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
Either one seems to work, and it can just be half a cup. I'll find that maybe if I'm super dieting, when you're super dieting, especially in the summer, I do more raw foods. I am like really up in July. I am like on fire in July. And I've even had people walk into my house, and my ex-boyfriend walked to my house. He said, I can feel your energy. I'm like, whoa. So I need something to just knock me down, and that serotonin flooding you will help. But so if you add protein to your carbs, it's not going to have the same effect. So having like a little bit of chicken with your rice at night, not the same, but just straight up rice, maybe a little butter if you want it, a little salt. Cool.
Good to know.
Good night.
I love butter.
Potatoes, not as strong as rice. Popcorn too. But popcorn.
I was going to ask you about that. Actual
Popcorn
versus the rice cakes you have listed.
Okay, so rice cakes seem to help. I've been really up, had one rice cake, and it helped to knock me down for years. I've been doing that. Rice too, but I feel like I'm trying to have more hydrated food. So rice, just I feel less dry mouth when I wake up. I feel healthier, more vital. Whereas the rice cake, I can feel more groggy, like a little bit of a hangover. Popcorn seems to knock me out too. And I've had multiple people tell me this one. I had a meeting one time, I was slurring my words. So popcorn, if you got to get up and speak, as soon as you wake up, watch out with that popcorn at night.
Wow. I have gone away from popcorn, but that was my go-to for
Okay.
a long time. And I've been craving it because I have been actually having some difficulty sleeping. I
Oh.
think mine more hormonal, but nonetheless, I think that I'm gonna go back to that.
And how come you
That's
dropped off popcorn? Just curious. Quick question on that.
Say it again.
How come you cut popcorn out? I'm just curious.
Um, I was just thinking the carbs is I'm just eating too much, or
Yeah.
because it's a snacky food, and so
Mm-hmm.
I might be eating too much. I guess if I can limit myself,
Yes. If we could
what would
limit.
you say, like a cup?
I mean, for
Is
me,
that
I would say popcorn is more of a treat food, or like I treat it like a sleeping pill, or I treat it like a treat food. I almost bought some at the store yesterday. One, you can make your own. It's cheaper.
yeah,
Pandemic.
that's what I do.
I don't get my nails done either. I'm really watching the funds. I'm really watching money. So you can make your own. Two, the nutritional benefits and the conductivity and all. It's not that it doesn't really give you much aside from me, other than sleep and taste satisfaction, which are two important things in life. So
Yeah.
that's
So,
really it.
question though,
Hmm.
are you air popping, or are you actually using? Okay, yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
an air popper. I
not the
think that was
microwave.
part of it too. Yeah.
Or I'll get like a bag. I'll get a bag at the store if I'm really lazy sometimes. I like a skinny pop, but it's hard not to
Yeah.
eat the whole bag and then I wake up like I can't see straight. But if you need a night, where you need to go into a sleep coma, I need to do that maybe 1, 2 nights a week just to like a vampire, just good night, goodbye world, popcorn and lots of rice and cheese will do that. Now that's another controversial because cheese, as you probably know, has casomorphine. Cheese has a
Mm,
natural form of morphine. I was
mm.
truth bomb, I guess one of my biggest vices would be I definitely had way too much cheese in the last year and a half, way too much, but it makes you sleep magically for me.
Mm.
But you
Okay.
wake up real
I
groggy.
love butter. I mean, is there any?
Butter, you said?
Yeah, butter.
Butter doesn't seem to knock me out the way cheese does.
Okay.
Cheese will actually have a hard time getting off of this couch right behind me and walking like
Hmm.
15 feet to my bedroom. Like that's,
Mhm.
and I'll get this fuzzy feeling. It's like a morphine like feeling.
So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. So in terms of cheese, because I'm sure somebody who's gonna think about this question,
Right?
is there any specific cheese, because some have more fat or whatever the
Right.
ingredients is? Um,
You know what? I'm not really an expert on cheese for sleep, but I'll tell you this. I like Munster, I like Colby, I like I pepper jack and feta. They've
okay.
all worked to help me go to sleep. So with that rice and
Okay.
cheese combo, it's really like lights out and it helps me. I sleep through the night. I feel great.
Okay.
But if you want
I
to
love
just sleep
feta.
for 4 or 5 hours, let's say you have to get up for something, very early in the morning, and you're giving yourself 5 hours,
Mm.
the whole eating before bed thing's not great because you're going to spend a lot of that time digesting and not repairing tissues and you're going to wake up not feeling good. So only do the eating before bed if you can really give yourself a lot of time, which leads me to
Oh, good to know.
yeah, you want to give yourself that time to really digest and kind of sleep through that. You seem to sleep more when you eat before bed. That's what I found.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I find that I need to sleep less, and a lot of people say the same if I'm on an all raw food diet. Now, the question with that is, can you actually get to sleep if I'm on a raw food diet? Is that going to work?
Hmm.
A lot of times, no, I'm too buzzed, and that's where the carbs come in for me because I'm way too buzzed. But if you're on that raw food diet, and a lot of times you won't need as much sleep. You can use 4, 5, 6 hours because you're just high
I don't
vibing.
think, Jen, I have ever been good on 4 or 5, 6 hours.
Me neither. A few times in my life, a few times there's prayer involved, and that's weird.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, but actually, the men in my dad and his dad, they can do 4 hours, and there's a few people I know.
I noticed
Mhm.
that.
There's a few people that
Mhm.
can do it. Like 1%, I think, of the population could do 4 hours.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So
Mm.
there's other things I can put in writing. There's before bed things like a less potent of the rice and potatoes and cheese thing would be peas. Peas also
Mm.
helps you get a little sleepy. And I'll move on from
Mm.
the food. I'm gonna go to the next one. Avoiding alcohol, 100%. Even a glass of wine. Some people feel fine. Many people do not. Yeah.
I learned that probably a couple years ago,
Okay.
but it was more than a glass. And I know I started paying attention to that if I have two,
All
but
right.
typically I'm okay with one. But I feel like that's changing again with
Hmm.
just this whole new segment of my life. So I'm having to recalibrate
Yeah.
some of those things. So.
Yeah, everyone's different with the wine one. That's like all over the board. Everyone's
Mhm.
different. I get actually wired and energized and excited, and then I can't sleep, and that's horrible. So, no. For
Mm.
tart cherry juice, that's another supplement on the list. Tart cherry juice, it has melatonin in it.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
saw that and I did try that. I was actually at my sister's when I tried this, but I didn't try it long enough
Mm-hmm.
so that I could see if it actually was working for me. I feel
Mm.
like it definitely helped with the calmness, but I couldn't tell you specifically how if it helped a deep sleep
Yeah.
or just fall asleep. So,
Same. Yeah,
mm,
I should do a test on the cherry, maybe like every other day. I have a calendar. Maybe that would do that. I don't know.
mm,
And
yeah.
magnesium would be another one. You could take a pill, but before taking pills, I always like to recommend real food. So we get the leafy greens during the day. We could have leafy greens at dinner or midday. I'll usually do that, not before bed. Doesn't really work for me. Although some people, odd trick, they say romaine lettuce and leafy greens before bed helps. So that's a I'm not sure about that one. But magnesium, there's a chia pudding, which is very popular. It's in my guidebook too, chia seeds in water, or you can make the whole chia pudding, which is not very hard. It has magnesium and omegas, and that can help you fall asleep, especially if you're dieting and restricting calories. You'll get your essential fats, you'll get your magnesium for the day, and it'll help to relax your nerves. Very important. Yeah. And
I
then
like that one. I didn't realize that that would be, so I really was excited when I saw that on your list.
yeah,
You're
try.
just
I'd
talking
like
about
to
regular
hear.
chia seeds?
Yeah, regular chia seeds, and there's a simple recipe, so I could send that out too. It's super easy. It takes maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes for it to solidify. That's actually very helped me when I really was dieting down in the summer. I'd have a little bit of avocado, maybe a third or a
Ooh.
half,
Mm.
and some chia pudding. It's low carb, so if you're following the whole keto thing and not spiking insulin, that's pretty cool. And it definitely did help with sleep. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, that's another trick that can help. Cottage cheese too is a weird one. If you wake up in the
Oh
middle of the
my
night,
gosh.
I
I
love
love
cottage cheese.
cottage.
so that's another. Everything is controversial because everything is pros and cons in life,
No, I
right?
know, but it's funny because it just reminding me it's just taking me back. I've had insomnia since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying everything that you pretty much said, I probably tried,
Mm-hmm.
and then some of the things do work, but then I forget about it
You got to do them
because
all.
I feel like my body, like you're saying, different times of the year, you kind of need different things. And as
Yes.
I'm kind of understanding myself, I'm starting to understand that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, so different things are going to work different for me, different times of the year,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah,
or whatever.
seasonal. Like summer, I'm a different animal. In winter, I treat myself much differently. But I used to treat myself like the same person season, and it's like that doesn't work. For most people, it doesn't really work. Um, but the cottage cheese has casein, so casein's linked to cancer. It's linked to tumor growth. A lot of people say no casein. Then bodybuilders have cottage cheese because it helps with prevent muscle breakdown, helps you actually build muscles. So I think it's an anti-catabolic actually, and also it has a little bit of that casomorphine in it. So for me, it helps. I know that when I'm really dropping fat, this always happens, and with a lot of people too, and especially if you're getting into bodybuilding or extreme fitness, you'll probably wake up after 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. You might feel starving, hungry. That's a common thing. So the cottage cheese thing, a little protein, even a little oatmeal in the middle of the night if you really need to knock out, that's another one. Interesting. Yeah, that midnight meal if you're for bodybuilders out there.
Well, I make oatmeal like for 3 days at a time.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's good to know I can just go down
Yeah,
and take a couple bites and
couple
then
bites.
go back to sleep.
Couple bites is not going to put weight on you. If we're not drinking alcohol and we're not having chips and all this candy, and I save all of my carbs for the night times, I use my carbs as a sleeping pill, I'm not going to put on weight because all the carbs are all together. That's all. As long as you have a healthy weight balance. If you're trying to be size 000, which is silly, then okay, different story. But this isn't for you. This is not for that.
I love it, love it.
Next one is 1 to 3 hours before bed. If you really want a relaxation day, maybe 5-6 hours before bed. Commit to relaxation time, which means no real conversations through text. Even a fun conversation. It may be a fun little back and forth that is not going to get into any type of drama or even planning. I'm planning all these events this week. I'm not going to engage with any of these producers because it's going to get into work mode after a certain time. That's it. They'll be there when I wake up. They'll be there when you wake up.
So what's your typical cutoff time for your relaxation?
Well, because I have a strange schedule. Like I'm hosting a comedy show 9:30 Thursday, 8 o'clock Saturday.
Okay.
My schedules vary all over. But if it's like Sunday, I didn't have anything Sunday night. I probably cut myself off around 4 or 5. I said, you know what? We're chilling. We're not doing anything too focused. It's me time. Just relax, go into your own zone. Clean if you want, watch TV if you want, whatever you want.
So are you saying like 2 hours, 1 hour? What have you find for you and your clients that works?
The average person who's working, it's not pandemic, probably 1, 2, or 3 hours is the most sane. But you got to adapt with different days. Now, some people, after a while, you can adapt and do this adaptation with each day, which I do. Every day is different. But that's a little chaotic. For most people, the recommended suggestion is to go to sleep at the same time, wake at the same time. But maybe we have a range, like a 3-hour range. 3-hour wake time, 3-hour rest time. It depends on your schedule.
I love that because most people's lives aren't consistent like that.
No.
It's not so rigid. And especially as entrepreneurs,
No.
it changes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good to know just from, your expert opinion.
I mean, I'm also basically a comedian giving sleep tips, and comedians are known stereotypically to have late night crazy hours. So this whole thing is ironic. But, merging comedy life and crazy rambunctiousness with fitness. So the next one would be...
I think it's about the sleep. It's not about what time of day. And maybe people get caught up in that. And I think that you being a comedian giving sleep tips is perfect because you're not on a typical 9 to 5, something scheduled. So it's really about sleep, which is important whenever it is, because there are people that are on third shift that are sleeping during the time, when the sun is up.
True.
They're trying to figure out how the rest of the world is like bustling around them and trying to figure out ways to, help them.
Right.
Do that. So.
Right. Actually, 2 of my clients, one has an overnight shift, another works in a jail, crazy